The Children's Bible, Genesis 41, Pharaoh's Dreams. 2 full years went by, and then it happened one night that Pharaoh dreamed. He stood by the river, and behold, 7 fine, fat cows came out of the Nile, and they fed in the meadow. Then behold, 7 other cows, thin and scrawny, came up after them out of the Nile, and stood by the other cows upon the brink of the river. And the thin and scrawny cows ate up the 7 fat and handsome cows. Then Pharaoh awoke. He slept again and dreamed a second dream. 7 ears of corn came up on one stalk. They were hardy and good, and behold, 7 ears, undersized and blasted by the east wind, sprang up after them. And the 7 undersized ears swallowed the 7 hardy and full ears. Pharaoh awoke and knew it was a dream. On the next morning his spirit was troubled. He sent and called for all the magicians of Egypt, and the wise men of the land. Pharaoh told them his dreams, but there was no one who could interpret them to Pharaoh. Then the chief butler spoke to Pharaoh, saying, "Now I remember my faults. Pharaoh was angry with his servants, and put me into the prison of the captain of the guard, both me and the chief baker. One night we each had a dream, he and I, each a different dream. And there was in the prison with us a young man, a Hebrew, a servant to the captain of the guard. We told him our dreams, and he interpreted them to us, giving to each of us the meaning of our dreams. And everything happened to us just as he told us it would. I was restored to my office, and the baker was hanged." So Joseph sent for Pharaoh, and they brought him quickly out of the dungeon. He shaved himself, changed his clothing, and came to Pharaoh. Pharaoh said to Joseph, "I have had a dream, and there is no one here that can interpret it. I have heard it said that you can understand a dream and tell me its meaning." Joseph answered Pharaoh, saying, "It is not in my power. God shall give Pharaoh an answer." So Pharaoh said to Joseph, "In my dream, behold, I stood upon the bank of the Nile, and there came out of the river 7 cows, fat and handsome, and they fed in the meadow. But behold, 7 other cows came up after them, thin and scrawny, such as I have never seen in all the land of Egypt for badness. The lean and scrawny cows ate the first 7 cows, the fat ones. And when they had eaten them, they still appeared the same. They remained thin and scrawny, just like in the beginning. And then I woke up. In my other dream I saw, behold, 7 ears of corn came up on one stalk. They were full and good. Then behold, 7 ears withered, thin and blasted with the east wind, sprung up after them. The thin ears devoured the 7 good ears. I told these dreams to the magicians, but they could not interpret them for me." Joseph said to Pharaoh, "The 2 dreams of Pharaoh are one. God has shown Pharaoh what he is about to do. The 7 good cows are 7 years, and the 7 ears of corn are also 7 years. The dream is the same. The 7 thin and scrawny cows that came after are 7 years, and the 7 empty ears blasted with the east wind will be 7 years of famine. This is the meaning of what I have told Pharaoh. What God is about to do he is showing to Pharaoh. Behold, there will be 7 years of great plenty throughout the whole land of Egypt, and after them will come 7 years of famine. All the plenty shall be forgotten in the land of Egypt, and the famine shall consume the land. The plenty will no longer be remembered in the land, because of the famine that will follow, for it shall be great." The dream was sent to Pharaoh twice, because this thing has been decided by God, and God will make it happen soon. Now therefore let Pharaoh search for a man wise and discreet, and make him a governor over the land of Egypt. Let Pharaoh do this, and let him appoint officers over the land, to gather up 1/5 of the harvest of the land in the 7 years of plenty. Let them gather all the food of these good years that come, and lay up corn under the order of Pharaoh, and keep it in the cities, and that food shall be stored for the land to draw on during the 7 years of famine, which shall come later in the land of Egypt, so that the land may not perish through famine." This plan seemed good in the eyes of Pharaoh and in the eyes of all of his servants. And Pharaoh said to his servants, "Can we find such a man in whom there is, as in this one, the Spirit of God?" Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, "Inasmuch as God has shown you all of this, there is no one as wise or as discreet as you are. You shall be in charge of my house, and all my people will be ruled according to your word. Only on the throne itself will I be greater than you." Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, "See, I have set you over all the land of Egypt." And Pharaoh took off the ring from his hand and put it on Joseph's hand. He dressed him in robes of fine linen and put a gold chain around his neck. He made him ride in the second royal chariot, and people cried before him, "Bow the knee!" So Pharaoh made him ruler over all the land of Egypt. And he said to Joseph, "I am Pharaoh, and without you no man shall lift his foot or hand in all the land of Egypt." Then Pharaoh gave Joseph the Egyptian name Zaphnath-Paneah, and he gave him for his wife Asenath, the daughter of Potiphera, the priest of On. Now Joseph was 30 years old when he stood before Pharaoh, king of Egypt. When Joseph left Pharaoh, he went over all the land of Egypt. In the 7 years of plenty the earth brought forth food in abundance. So during those 7 years, when plenty prevailed in the land, Joseph gathered up food and stored the food in the cities. In the same way he stored up the food of the fields which closely surrounded the cities. Joseph gathered grains in quantities as great as the sand of the sea, so much that he stopped counting, for it was without number. Asenath, the daughter of Potiphera, priest of On, gave Joseph 2 sons before the 7 years of famine. Joseph called the first Manasseh, because God, he said, has made me forget all my suffering and all my father's house. And the name of the second was Ephraim, because God has made me fruitful in the land of my affliction. Then the 7 years of plenty in the land of Egypt were ended, and the 7 years of poverty began. Just as Joseph had said, famine was in all the land, but in all the land of Egypt there was bread. Then the land of Egypt was famished. And the people cried to Pharaoh for bread, and he said to the Egyptians, "Go to Joseph, and do as he tells you." The famine spread over the face of the earth, and Joseph opened up all the storehouses and sold food to the Egyptians. The famine was severe in Egypt, but the famine was so severe in other lands that people came from all countries to Egypt to buy food from Joseph.